BYU talks a lot about inclusion and belonging, but are students actually feeling it? We decided to go around and ask students how they actually feel. So here's what they said.
Sometimes. It depends on the class or the circumstances or the activities that I'm doing.
Yes.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yes.
To better understand inclusion and belonging at BYU, we created 2 surveys and dispersed them to a wide variety of students to see how their experiences are with inclusion and belonging at BYU. And this is what we found.
We created these 2 different surveys because we realized that EXCM students who have had exposure to diversity, inclusion, and belonging due to 418 might give more biased answers than students who have not had DEI training before. So you'll notice 2 different graphs on most of these surveys, on most of these slides, which will reflect the responses of each of those surveys, the one that we sent out to EXCM students and non-EXCM students. These are not all of the questions we asked in the survey. However, these reflect some of the key responses and takeaways that we found in the survey. First question refers to if someone can be included in a group and still not feel like they belong. As shown, most EXCM students and non-EXCM students feel strongly that this is the case. When it comes to stereotypes and these general feelings of belonging, EXCM students and non-EXCM students rated about the same. Next, we see this graph related to leaders' responsibility to create an environment for inclusion and belonging. EXCM students showed a very even bell curve, where non-EXCM students tended to lean a little bit more heavily towards leaders being primarily responsible. However, it's not enough of a difference to note. Next, we see a graph. Both of these came from the study that we sent just to EXCM students, asking about their specific knowledge before taking EXCM 418. As we can see, most of the students tended to lean in the middle of the range of knowing a little to a lot, not many people being an expert except for the few responses in knowing about diversity. However, many students ranged in the middle about their knowledge about inclusion and belonging. Next, we see topics that people thought would be good to learn about or that they wanted to learn more about in terms of inclusion and belonging. For EXCM students, we see they really want to learn more about a gospel connection to diversity and inclusion, with the second most popular being equity. And for non-EXCM students, their biggest pull for a topic is also equity. Last question I wanted to highlight refers to people's understanding of the resources that are available to them. We thought it was really interesting how the majority of students for both EXCM and non-EXCM students said that they know that there are resources, but they don't know how to access them. We thought this was really valuable information. While we did gather all of this quantitative data, we also gathered some qualitative data. Here are some students' actual responses to a few of our questions.
I'd say when I started at BYU, I had quite a bit of imposter syndrome and didn't super feel like I belonged, but then the longer I've been here and the friends I've made and the experiences that I've had have helped me to feel like I do belong here.
For sure. I think my freshman year, I definitely felt out of place, but I think as I got more involved and as I got farther into my major, then I met more people and definitely feel like I belong here.
We also asked students about what kind of content on social media or other BYU resources they actually engage with, and that insight helped shape what we plan to do next.
From our research, we noticed a large gap. While the majority of students at BYU feel and know that inclusion and belonging are important, nearly 80% of students say that either they know that there are resources and they don't know where to find them, or they don't know of any resources to help with inclusion and belonging. This can include things such as trainings and guidelines and support for inclusion and belonging, and this is a large problem that students don't know where or how to access these resources. Students need to understand the importance of inclusion and belonging, especially through a gospel lens, as they expand their knowledge base and desire for inclusive understanding. We noticed that from our research sample, while the majority of students know that inclusion and belonging are important, they are unable to identify specific ways to practice it in their daily lives. Undergrad students need resources to help with inclusion and belonging, but this isn't all they need. They need to understand why inclusion and belonging are important.
So we started ideating. What if we do a gospel-centered curriculum? What about weekly culture spotlights? I know, how about we do a bulletin board where students can be able to come and share their thoughts, insights, or questions? That could work. What if we create a club that has a place where many students can come and gather? Well, that's kind of already been done for, right? Maybe we just need a glossary of resources so students can be able to answer any questions they might have. Okay, we have a lot of ideas, but we kept coming back to one question. Where are students actually spending their time? Oh, that's right. Social media, duh. So, what if we do a social media campaign? That might work. We could do a social media campaign where we have people sharing their stories, and we could even turn that social media page into a glossary of resources itself. So that way, we're being able to combine a couple of these things, making a glossary full of resources to address our problem, bringing gospel-centered lens into it, being hosted by BYU, maybe even the Office of Belonging, and using social media where we know students already are. So, we created a prototype for the social media campaign. Now, how exactly do you do that? Well, we weren't exactly sure. So, we decided to start looking into what other people had done for social media campaigns. Being here at BYU, there's a lot of social media usage. So, we knew some things that might work, such as, well, Cosmo, or just having people share stories, even going around campus. We talked about even the possibility of creating an opportunity where students could post themselves. As we started looking more into what a social media campaign might look like and starting to develop a simple prototype, we realized that we actually needed more empathy data. So we decided to go back to the original students and ask some questions.
When we looked deeper into the feedback, we noticed a few clear reasons why students responded so well. First, it felt relatable. Students saw themselves in the situations being shown. Second, it was short and easy to watch, which made it more likely they would actually finish the video. And finally, it was faith-centered, but in a way that felt natural and immediately useful in their everyday lives. Overall, this showed us that our idea connects with students in a meaningful and practical way.
We came up with a solution to help with this problem of the lack of inclusion and belonging resources on BYU campus. We want to help by launching a social media campaign with resources for understanding inclusion and belonging, and a linked glossary in every post for centralized resources of how to help with inclusion and belonging, and link each post with gospel messages and principles that will help with inclusion and belonging, and then continuously gathering feedback as we continue with this social media campaign. It's not just about content, it's a way to change the future of BYU and inclusion and belonging.
This project really changed how I think about belonging, not just as an idea, but as something we experience every day. One thing I realized is that inclusion isn't just about programs or events. It's about people and how we treat each other in small, everyday moments. Another thing that stood out to me is how deeply belonging is connected to the gospel. It's not just a social idea, it's something that really matters spiritually. And honestly, I learned that even small actions like reaching out, saying hi, or including someone can make a huge difference in whether someone feels like they belong or not. If all are alike unto God, then everyone should feel like they belong. Start with one person.